What's going on, everyone? I've been playing a lot of hardcore D2R lately over on my Twitch channel, where I've met a lot of softcore players that are too worried to play hardcore, and hardcore players that struggle to survive. This could be for any number of reasons, but I'm here to tell you that surviving in Diablo 2 isn't that hard as long as you follow these 10 steps. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I have a Discord channel set up for my Twitch and YouTube channels. So be sure to join to stay up to date on all my videos, when I go live on Twitch, and to enjoy the Smoked Meats channel.
I'm making meats now, smoking these meats here.
Also, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube for more ARPG related content. Now that we're done with that, let's get started. Tip number 1. Try to cap your resistances. Early on in normal, this won't be possible, and it won't matter that much, but you should still be trying to equip pieces of gear that have resistances on them. You can easily increase your resistances with the Ancient's Pledge rune word that is made with the Rao, Ort, and Tal runes and a shield, and it can be equipped at level 21. You can shop for an Ancient's Pledge base in Act 2 from Farah, and you can farm the runes from normal Countess. There are also some quests that help with your resistances as well, which leads us to our next tip. Tip number 2. Don't skip important quests. There are a handful of quests that can be particularly useful, but there are 3 that you most definitely shouldn't skip over when playing hardcore. The first one is the Golden Bird quest in Act 3. The very first unique monster you come across in Act 3 will drop a jade figurine. Once picked up, it will start the quest. Make sure to finish the entire quest line for the Potion of Life, which grants you 20 permanent hit points. Next is Lambeason's Tome. This quest is very easy to miss and requires a bit of time, but rewards you with 5 free attribute points. There are a total of 6 ruined temples scattered throughout the 3 areas of Karast. You need to find the right one and retrieve the tome for Alcor. This quest, alongside the Golden Bird quest, can amount to quite a lot of HP after doing each of them 3 different times, so don't overlook them. The last and most important quest for hardcore is the Prison of Ice quest in Act 5. You need to find Anya in the Frozen River, which can be found in the Crystalline Passage. Once you find her and free her from the ice, you'll be rewarded with a scroll that gives you plus 10 to all resistances, as well as a rare class-specific item from Anya herself. Obviously, the all-res is the important bit here, but the rare item you receive from Anya can actually be very good and shouldn't be overlooked either. The same goes for the Blade of the Old Religion quest in Act 3, and while it isn't quite as good as Anya's reward, you still get a rare ring from Ormus on completion, which, if you're lucky, can roll some useful stats like life and resistances. Tip number 3. Utilize charms and magic items. I can't tell you how many times on my recent playthrough with my Necromancer that I was using a charm or a magic item like a ring or pair of boots just to fill out my resistances. I know that your inventory space can feel precious, but none of that extra space will matter if you're dead, so use charms when you need them. And when it comes to magic items, you can find really good gloves, boots, and belts from vendors like Charcy in Act 1. For example, towards the end of Nightmare, I was looking for an upgrade to my boots, so I loaded a map where Charcy was close to the exit of town and checked her repeatedly for boots until I found a pair with 30% faster run walk and a good resistance roll. But this tactic can work really well for other items too, like fishing for a pair of gloves with stats like 20% increased attack speed and a high resistance roll. And lastly, this should go without saying, but you should be picking up and IDing magic items during your playthrough, especially for item slots where you feel like you could use an upgrade. Tip number 4. Gamble. There are ideal times to gamble throughout a character's leveling journey. For instance, sometime in Nightmare, usually around level 35 or so, is a great time to gamble for boots. This is because the speed affix that rolls 30% faster run walk can start rolling on rare boots at eye level 37, and all the other useful stats you want on boots like resistances and magic find can roll much earlier. This is valuable to know because the cost of gambling scales with the level of your character, so it becomes more expensive at higher levels. Also, as your level increases, so does the pool of affixes that can roll on an item, which decreases the odds that you'll receive the affixes you're looking for. Gambling is something that will be useful throughout your character's entire lifespan, or at least until you get all your best in slot gear. So be sure to gamble whenever you have some extra gold to spare. If you want to know more about the affixes that can roll on items and at what levels they can roll them, then be sure to check out the link to this site in the description below. If you guys want a more in-depth guide to gambling and how it all works, then let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to make a video for it. Tip number 5. Crafting. Crafting offers you a free chance at creating a good item as long as you have the items to do it. You can craft an item for any item slot on your character, but you can only craft with certain base items. For example, if you want to craft a belt with faster cast rate, then you would need either a magic light belt, shark skin belt, or a vampire fang belt. So it's a good idea to keep an eye out for the specific bases you need. But if you are having trouble finding them, you can always gamble for the base item or check a vendor for one. I don't want to go over every single possible thing you can craft here, but I'll leave a link to this cheat sheet below that gives you all the crafting recipes as well as a ton of other useful information. Once again, if you guys want a crafting guide, just let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to put one out for you. Tip number 6. Pay attention to enemy modifiers, auras, and curses. This is probably the most important tip of them all, except for keeping your resistances capped, of course. There are many auras that can be very deadly to go up against, especially if the monsters that have them are buffed by other modifiers. For example, the Might aura increases the attack damage of all the monsters under its effects. This might not sound too bad, but couple this with an effect like extra speed and it becomes increasingly dangerous. Throw in amplified damage from the curse effect and you just might find yourself fighting for your life. This is just one example of how a situation can go from 0 to 60 really quick, but there are a plethora of other combinations that are just as, if not more dangerous. The two big auras you want to look out for are Fanaticism and Conviction. Conviction is by far the scariest aura in my opinion. Every time I hear this noise, my butthole puckers. Conviction lowers your fire, cold, and lightning resistances. A pack of spellcasters or a lightning, cold, or fire enchanted monster with this aura can be terrifying, so keep an ear and an eye out for Conviction. Speaking of fire, cold, and lightning enchanted mobs, there's a unique bug in Nightmare that causes some rippy interactions when an enemy is fire enchanted and either cold or lightning enchanted. A common place to run into this bug is against the Council in Act 3.
What the fuck was that?
The bug can cause multiple explosions and or novas to occur that deal high amounts of damage, but only one nova and explosion will ever be seen. And since the explosion from fire enchanted mobs is partially physical, you need to be very careful to not have amplified damage on you. It might be a good idea to go back to town whenever you have amp damage on you to get it cleansed from the town healer, at least until you can build your character to a point where they won't get deleted because of it. There are lots of combinations of auras and monster mods that can be scary, especially if you're lacking some resistances and you have amplified damage on you. So keep an eye on your resistances and try your best to learn as much as you can about auras and monster mods. Tip number 7. Hire a mercenary. I'm sure this is obvious to most of you, but hiring a mercenary can be very good both offensively and defensively. The Act 2 defense mercenary in Nightmare provides the Holy Freeze aura, which slows the movement and attack speed of all enemies in range. Defensively speaking, this is the best mercenary in the game and will make most situations you're in safer. You can also use your mercenary as a meat shield by just kiting monsters away until the enemies aggro him. Just be sure to keep him geared up so he isn't dying on you all the time. Tip number 8. Invest in defenses and utility. What I mean by this is that most classes have a form of defense and or utility that they can use to help keep them alive. For barbarians, there's Shout, Battle Orders, Natural Resistance, and Howl. Assassins get Fade, Weapon Block, and Shadow Master. Necromancers get Bone Armor, Curses, and Summons. You get the idea. But one defense that all classes can make use of, if they choose to do so, is Block. Max Block will be easier to reach for some classes than it will be for others, but it's a great way to increase your survivability, and it might be worth looking into depending on what class and build you're playing. Tip number 9. Use rejuvenation potions. This might be a no-brainer to some of you, but I thought it was worth mentioning for anyone that might be new to Diablo 2. Rejuvenation potions heal a portion of your life and mana instantly, which is very good for those oh shit moments that you will inevitably come across. You can also combine 3 rejuvenation potions in your Horadric Cube to create a full rejuvenation potion, which instantly restores 100% of your life and mana. Be sure to keep yourself stocked up on these, it can mean the difference between life and death. Tip number 10. Farming for upgrades. Diablo 2 isn't about rushing to the end game as quickly as possible, although it can definitely be like that in softcore. On hardcore, especially on a fresh character, you can't be afraid to farm for upgrades. This is usually done by farming Countess in Act 1 for runes and by farming cows or other similar areas for item bases to use said runes. You can obviously farm act bosses too, as long as you feel like you can handle them. The whole point here is to not be afraid to farm or gain some extra levels before continuing your journey. And those are the 10 tips that will help keep you alive in hardcore Diablo 2. Of course, there's a ton of other information that's really useful and valuable to know on hardcore, but these will help get you started. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them for you. If you liked this video or found it helpful, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more Diablo related content.